Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the podcast still known as Todd Clint's SharePoint Podcast, number 337, recorded live Monday, May 8th, 2017. I am the show's namesake and your host, Todd Clint, and because I am benevolent and understanding, I let this guy over here join in. Tell them who you are. Tell the listeners who you are.
Hi, my name is Shane Young, and I bring the adult to this show, right? Todd might be the namesake, but, just like those Hilton girls or the namesakes of those hotels, it takes people like me behind the scenes to really drive it home. So you're welcome.
If you bring the adult here, it's just so that I can show them on the doll where you touched me. That's the only reason that you would bring an adult to the show.
Oh, and folks, if you ever get the chance, you should watch the show live because we've been on here for about 15 minutes, and we are in a rare form right now. So I don't know how this is going to translate to the edited version of the show, but we have made more inappropriate comments without saying a word in the last 15 minutes than you can imagine. So if you ever get the chance, join us live so you can hear the inappropriateness.
Yeah, and you can go, so if you go to toddclint.com/netcast, there's a place to sign up for the Slack chat room, and because of the way Slack works, we have to invite you and all that, but then you can jump into the chat room. We're usually in an hour early, something like that. We turn the video on a little early and give you the links and all that. But yeah, it's a good time. The podcast or the chat room folks are very understanding. It was funny. Jeff Hicks has been joining us, and he's like, "I can't believe you guys do this every week." And then somebody else chimed in, "I can't believe we listen to it every week." I'm like, that is the bigger miracle of the two. I'll be honest.
Well, and speaking of the people who enjoy the show, I know a lot of you are listening in your car, so you don't get the visuals. But this is one of those weeks you should have gotten the visual because Mr. Clint is wearing a vest that looks like it's made out of some type of fluffy bunny. And I know that me and my wife have recently had a conversation around vests, right? She'd like to see me get so ripped that I can just wear a vest around the house all the time, maybe a little leather one, some assless chaps, that type of stuff. But I don't know, Todd, what brings you to a vest this afternoon?
Well, so as you can tell, this is an official MVP vest.
But okay.
For those of you that are listening to the audio version, I'll take my word for it. So actually, let's jump to that. Let's because I've got a thing about that later on, and I'll talk all about the vest. This is foreshadowing for those of you that.
My bad. I was told to talk about the vest. Wasn't told when to talk about the vest.
Yeah, I did not tell you when to talk about the vest. Yes. So I'm Todd Clint. You can hit me up on Twitter at Todd Clint. Todd at toddclint.com. Shane, give them your deets.
Good old at Shane's Cows on the Twitter, or Bold Zebras if you're looking for some SharePoint consulting. Not my Radeon video card, which is right beside the zebra, right? I got a zebra, I got a tiger, good stuff. But the video cards for the YouTube channel, Shane Young Cloud, you can check that out if you're looking for PowerShell stuff, which our dear friend Jeff Hicks has been watching, and he didn't keel over. He didn't have a heart attack from watching my video, so I consider that a win.
Jeff, though, is a very polite man, and I think it would be tough for him to tell you it was a big steaming pile of guano if it was. So, he's a very classy guy is all I'm saying.
So you're saying that when he said something like, "Oh, it's cute how you made that," that was actually a backhanded insult. That wasn't.
Yeah, he was one step away from saying, "Bless your heart." Yeah.
Pat me on the head.
So for production notes, 336 has been produced. We'll leave it at that. So on to topic. So why am I wearing this vest? Well, last weekend in Chicago, there was a big MVP meetup for the Midwest MVPs. Shane was too busy to show up. He could not be bothered to come. But for those of us that went, we had a good time, got to hang out with some other discipline. There's a SharePoint Saturday event in Minneapolis. So a bunch of the SharePoint folks that would have come to Chicago were in Minneapolis instead, SharePoint Saturdaying. But one of the things before we had the event is they said, for those of you that are doing an event, come to the event, we're going to have a big picture and we're going to send you these MVP jackets. I'm like, I love free stuff. I got a whole closet full of free stuff. So a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, this thing shows up. And for those of you that are listening to the radio version, I'll try to describe it in as best a way that I can. It's like a pullover, like a fleece sort of thing, but it's a vest, but it's got a hood. So it's apparently if you're not worried about your arms getting cold, but you are worried about your ears getting cold, and it's got some pockets, and it's made out of it's got a weird fabric on it. I don't know. But anyway, so this thing shows up, and it's really not my style. Now, I have no style. I don't know what my style is, but this isn't it. So I'm getting ready. Well, I guess my wife was there when I got it in the mail, and I'm like, I got this, and we kind of giggled because again, it's not my style, and I'm like, and they're gonna take a picture of us all wearing these, and I don't know how it is exactly I'm gonna make that work. How I'm gonna pull that off. And she said, well, it'll really depend on what you wear underneath it. I'm like, wear underneath it? I'm not gonna wear anything underneath this. I've seen Channing Tatum. I've seen his work in 21 Jump Street. You don't wear anything underneath this. This just stands alone. This is just the thing. And so some morning after that, I don't remember when it was, we're getting ready in the morning. So I stroll out of the bathroom wearing another bit of pair of blue jeans. And I think my wife called in sick that day. I don't remember.
Yeah, all I heard in that story was when you said Channing Tatum, and you tried to backpedal like, 21 Jump Street. You didn't say Magic Mike XXL, right? We know where you really saw him wear that vest.
I didn't mention, I didn't see him in a calendar hanging on my wall or as a homepage when my browser comes up. I didn't say any of those things. That is absolutely true.
Okay, I just want to make sure that no one else missed that.
No, 21 Jump Street. Well, that's just what I remember him wearing this as. He probably wears it just if I was built like him. I don't know if I probably wouldn't own any shirts if I was built like him. It would just, I don't know.
I'm with you. If I looked like that, I would also just be like, no shirts.
just a waste.
Right. That reminds me of, and we won't I almost use his name, but I won't. One of the SharePoint MVPs, he used to be known to roll around Florida without any shirts on. And it was the opposite of that. I don't know if you ever heard any of those stories be told, but.
Yes, yeah. Yes,
that vest would not have made it over what was not being covered.
Yep. So I thought, in honor of, I wanted to talk about the SharePoint or the MVP thing in Chicago, and I thought nothing would be more fitting than this stylish yet functional vest. And so we had to take them to the thing, and the event started at 7:30. For those of you that were in Chicago Saturday morning, it was not warm at 7:30, or really any time on Saturday. And so I was at the hotel and I got my bag with my backpack and all that. And I had to take this and I was going to wear this, but my damn arms got cold. So I had to wear a different jacket and then carry this because it's got no sleeves.
This is what happens when you have chicken wings. There's not any meat there to keep those arms warm.
I do the best with what I got. My little straws. So
I do like, though, we've been looking for sponsors for the show. We're trying to make a couple bucks out of this, right? We use some revenue. And Jeff had the great idea. This is now an MVP podcast worn vest. You could auction this off for like 30 or 40 cents. No problem. We would be loaded.
That would almost cover the transaction costs.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. It charges 50 cents up front and the shipping costs. Yeah, we'll only lose like $10 if we sold that thing.
Yeah, that's something to think about, though. Yeah, I could maybe sign it. Yeah, it's got pockets right here. You can put like phones and Cheetos and I don't know. Yeah, it's and Lori called me out earlier. Not only am I wearing an MVP vest that's a sleeveless vest, I'm also wearing a T-shirt of Pusheen the cat eating pizza.
Yeah, you keep using this Pusheen word.
Yep.
I don't get it.
So anyway. That's enough of that. We've probably lost all of our audience.
Yeah, everyone else has turned it off, hit skip. Good for them. So those that have it here, we'll do a PowerShell thing real quick before we get into the other non-important topics.
Oh, yeah.
So YouTube today, I got hit up by somebody and like, hey, I followed your video, my world-renowned videos with 3,000 subscribers and hundreds of thousands of views. How many subscribers do you have, Todd?
What? I'm sorry, I fell asleep. What were we talking about? Is it something on fire? My Lassie, is Timmy in the well?
1,017 subscribers? I forget.
1,017 quality folks who know a good thing when they see it.
Gotcha. Well, anyway, he said, hey, I'm getting this error message, and it's like, hey, your number is too big or too small to be an int 32. The number was about this long. I was like, it's probably too big. So it turns out, when in my script, I was declaring the variable, right? I was like, $count equals 0. And PowerShell said, oh, that's cute. Shane doesn't know what he's doing as usual. And so it went ahead and cast that variable as an int 32, right? 32-bit integer. Yeah, good. Turns out that the number he was trying to pass was about 3 digits too long to fit into an int 32. Apparently he had a much larger hard drive than I did.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, because we're doing hard drive sizing. So he had that issue. And I was like, that's hilarious because I don't have enough storage space to have any idea what caused the problem. But I went messed around a little bit, and unbeknownst to me, right, int32s have a max value. So if you do bracket int32 bracket colon max value, you can see this number that starts with a 2 that shows you the largest number you can have in an int32 variable. So what we had to do is had to adjust the script and actually cast it as an int64. So you could do bracket int64 bracket and then $count equals 0. It made a 64-bit variable, which was able to hold this much data, and then his hard drive was able to fit in there. So kind of cool.
Yeah. So in the chat room, Jeff Hicks brought up an interesting point and something that bears repeating. Size matters in PowerShell.
It does.
So I think, yes, that's an important thing to not to forget. So you bring up the interesting thing. So that number that the max of int32 is 2 terabytes-ish. So as we've, because there's terabytes and tibabytes and all that. But as we have moved through computers over the last few years, like there was a time when computers couldn't have more than 4 mega RAM and then 4 gig, all these kind of things. It's because internally the OS and applications are bumping up against things like this. So there was a time when Windows couldn't have a hard drive larger than 2 terabytes. This was why, because pieces of the hard drive were values were stored in 32s, and so that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Yep. So here I've got a link to integer sizes. So if you're ever curious about what does an int 16, 32, 64 hold, there'll be a link in the show notes for that. And then also there's some other stuff. I don't know if we want to really get into that level of details, right? But there's also other types of values like unsigned integers and things like that. I don't know. Do we even try and confuse people with that, or we just say, yeah, there's unsigned integers if you really want to get complicated?
You can have an integer and it cannot have a sign. So I forget exactly, and I'm going to look it up here. Okay, so normal ints reserve a bit for whether it's negative or positive.
Yep.
And unsigned ints do not. And so essentially that gives it one more value, so essentially double the values because it adds another bit at the end. So, as I understand them.
Well, you know what? Luckily for you, I do not know much about this topic, so I can't correct you. If someone feeds me a correction later, I'll get it. But right now, you're good.
In 60 to 90 seconds, once the lag and all that, Jeff can correct me. But this we've talked in the past about how PowerShell types things for us, and this is an example of how you may have to override that and cast it as your int64 or whatever.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? I made it almost 10 years of doing PowerShell before this came up, and now it's come up a couple times in the last few months. And I guess that means I'm doing more with PowerShell. I don't know, but it's just kind of neat to see that even when you feel like you've done a whole bunch with PowerShell, there's always more to learn. There's always new pieces, and it's always an evolution.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I'm glad. I did not know about the max value thing, so that's an interesting thing. I'm glad you put that out there.
Very cool. What else? We got Microsoft updated the preview of Azure Active Directory pass-through authentication, one of your favorite new features.
Yeah, so I was trolling around on the Azure AD logs, as I am wont to do, and I noticed that last month, just a couple of weeks ago, they pushed out a patch for Azure AD Connect that just kind of updates some of the things in the background of the pass-through authentication. So for those of you that haven't played with it yet, in the dark days, and by the dark days I mean 90, 120 days ago, when you set up Azure AD Connect to connect your on-prem Active Directory to Azure AD, you sort of had two options. You could just do the sync, which pushed up your usernames and hashes of your password up to Azure AD, and then people could log into Azure AD with the same username and password, but something about their password was up in the cloud. That freaked some people out, gave some security guys the heebie-jeebies. Yep. And so there was this other way you could do it, which was ADFS, which said that anytime somebody tried to log into Azure Active Directory, they were punted back to one of your servers, they got your branding, they logged into your server, and if you logged in correctly, then it would send a token back to Azure AD. So the good news for the security guys is it's very secure. No part of your password ever exists in Office 365 or Azure AD. The bad news is that setting up and configuring and maintaining ADFS is a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. It's just, security stuff, and you have to have multiple machines because it's doing the authentication and all that. And so that kept a lot of people from being more secure because they just didn't have the manpower or whatever to do it. So one of the previous versions, newer versions of Azure AD Connect added this new functionality, this pass-through authentication, which is kind of like if Directory Sync and ADFS had a little too much hooch one night and got together, and this is kind of the best of both worlds. So you don't have to do all the crazy ADFS stuff. You don't have multiple machines. You still just have one machine if you want to. But now when somebody tries to log into Office 365, when they type their password in, it gets encrypted and sent to an on-prem machine and compared to a hash on-prem, and then it goes back out. So now there's not a hash of your password sitting out anywhere for bad guys to get to. And you don't have a big, farm of machines to do your authentication. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So it is more secure than syncing, a little less secure than ADFS because your password does exist in some form for a brief second while you're typing it into Office 365 and they're hashing it up and sending it over. But for a few folks, that's additional security is better. It's good enough.
And the other nice thing is you don't end up with any firewall holes, right? Because it's always, the inside is always pulling Office 365. So in ADFS, right, I have to have a firewall hole for people that traffic to come in. So you could argue that it's even more secure than ADFS from that standpoint.
Yeah, so when you do the pass-through, your on-prem box tunnels out into Office 365, and when Office 365 needs it to do a thing, it comes back through that way. So you're absolutely right. There's no holes in the firewall. So, yeah.
What will the microwave do?
Yes, and I got my microwave fixed, so we're good. Repairman came out last week. Microwave is fixed, plugged back in. So.
Now, but did you ever get a new microwave for downstairs, or do you still just have the one upstairs? Or is this
No, we got a second one. So to back up for the first one, because we had a birthday party and all that. So yeah, so now I have multiples. Good coverage.
High def, nice.
Exactly. Yep. So if you're thinking about doing any kind of authentication piece, and honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, that's something that's going to be coming down the road for you. Azure AD Connect, go out there, check out the new stuff, update it, see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the microwave being hacked and all that, I saw you sent this over to me early last week, right? IBM has been shipping malware-infected USB sticks to enterprise customers. I'm like, that is fabulous news.
Yeah, and this reminded me of you because I will. Or do you want to tell the story about your paranoia around that a few years ago?
Are you talking about when I made fun of you for ordering the device, or the one where I threw away the stuff?
That one, the second one.
All right. Yeah. So, goodness, it's been about 4 years ago now.
Oh, longer than that. I thought it was SharePoint 911 days, wasn't it?
No, it was in my fancy corner office.
Okay.
But yeah, so I needed for a project I was working on for some sensitive stuff for my current employer at that point, who shall not be named. I needed some USB drives to copy some things around. And so I was in a real hurry. It was like in between meetings because that's all I really did was go to meetings for a living. And so I hopped on Amazon real quick. I typed in USB stick. This one came up as like a 10-pack for $3.99. I'm like, boom, sold. Ordered it, like, all right, let's do this. I'm used to Amazon Prime. It'll be here in 30 minutes or something like that. Right? The drone was going to drop it off.
Knock on the window, you open it up.
Exactly. Well, it turns out I get an email from Amazon like, well, congratulations for your order. You pretty much ordered that straight from the factory in China, so it'll be here in 4 to 6 weeks. Darn it. My haste, I'd went too fast. I bought the wrong thing. It wasn't Amazon Prime. It was Amazon slow boat from China, literally.
Literally, yes.
And so, 4 to 6 weeks later, that thing showed up, and I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I gave all my information to someone in China, and now they're custom making me some USB sticks? Does that just have embedded firmware stuff that just says, oh yeah, send Shane Young's information to this server over here in this province? So I literally got that box from Amazon. I looked at it, I shook it, I was like, yep, those are USB sticks. They were in the trash. I refused to even open the box. I assumed they were going to hack it when I stuck my knife on there to cut the box open. So I just don't trust that type of stuff. And then shortly after that, Mr. Clint had a story that followed right along with that. You're crazy. Your tinfoil hat's too tight.
Well, and that's the thing. And so to step back years and years ago, like when I started at SharePoint 911, we were buying laptops. I'm like, hey, there's this great deal on this Lenovo. And Shane's like, I'm not buying it because Lenovo is owned by the Chinese government. It's all going to be hacked. I'm like, dude, you are crazy. There's no such thing. And then he tells me the story about the USB sticks. And I'm like, dude, you are crazy. There is no such thing. And then I order a little stick computer. I might still have it.
Oh, you keep it around for him?
Yeah. I don't have it handy. I used to keep it in this drawer. But anyway, it was a little USB stick running Windows and all that. This was a couple of years ago. Order it from Alibaba. So, straight, literally slow boat from China. But again, right, what's the worst that could happen? So I plug this thing in and it's just adorable and it's running Windows 10 and it's awesome. And I was going to do an unboxing video for it. So I get it plugged in and I'm recording it. And it boots up and it like doesn't give me the out of box experience or anything. It just poof right on the desktop. And the best thing is going back and listening to the narration. I'm like, well, that's odd. Well, so I'm describing this device to people. I'm like, it's got this much storage. I did this, and this, and it's only got this much RAM and this much CPU, but let's see how it's holding up. And so I right click on the taskbar to try to bring up the task manager and I can't. I get a dialog box that says administrator has disabled the task manager. I'm like, well, that is really strange. I wonder why that is. So I'm like, well, fortunately, because I've dealt with this, I know that's a setting in the registry. So I'll just open up the registry editor and tweak it. Windows run, a regedit. I hit that. Administrator has disabled this. And I'm like, man, what is going on with this thing? Well, we'll come back to it. So I'm like, I ordered this thing. Let's see how bad it is. Because one of the things that happens when you buy a Windows box, you got to patch it. Start settings, updates. It churns. The screen comes up and says, I need 400 mega downloads. And then the screen refreshes and says that it's up to date. And I'm like, this thing, what is going on with this thing? And so I can't remember how I get around it, but I end up getting these patches installed. And it has the Windows malware thing. And the thing came out of the box infected with malware. It came from the factory. I opened it up, and for the last hour, it had been on my network, just scavenging and talking to the dishwasher and just getting all the crummy stuff out of it. So, yeah.
It's a true problem. I don't know how you buy anything anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and there's just been 100 stories of that, routers coming with firmware that are hacked and all that. Yeah.
Man, that makes sense, right? If you're the bad guys and you can get upstream, the further upstream you are, the easier it is to put in.
Yeah, and this was from IBM. This was,
This
made in Malaysia.
Is from IBM. Yeah.
So that was crazy stuff. But ever since then, and this is like the microwave thing. We joked about that. Microwave can't spy on you. But I've seen enough things in my life that every time I hear one of those, I'm like, well, you never know. So now, who knows?
So there you go, folks. Don't pretty much just don't trust anything you buy. I think is what Todd and I are saying. Next week I'm gonna wear an aluminum foil hat. Let's just tell the people who we are.
Yep. So I whenever I see these links, I'm not a proud man. I'll own up to it. This vindicates Shane, so I threw that one in the notes.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the big Microsoft event last week. Speaking of hardware and all that. So Microsoft had an event last week where they unveiled 2 new things, and much like the mistake they made 5 years ago when they did this, they introduced them in such a way that they will be conflated by everybody. They introduced a new Surface laptop, and they introduced a new Windows OS, Windows 10S, and they introduced them at the same time with the same thing, and so now everybody thinks they're the same thing. Much like Windows RT and the first Surfaces that came out whenever they came out. So this new Surface laptop is just a beautiful thing. It is tiny. It's like a MacBook Air killer, except it's faster and better looking and stronger and better with the ladies and all that. They've got i5 and i7 versions. They come in blue and magenta and platinum and black. It's like 16 hours of battery life. The things are just amazing.
No,
Did you? Go ahead.
I was saying, is it periwinkle blue?
Periwinkle blue.
But no, it's they're pretty exciting, and very excited to see them kind of roll this stuff out. But like you said, they went ahead and kind of rolled on that 16 hours of battery life comes with Windows 10S, which has now got everyone confused and freaked out.
Yeah, so Windows 10 S, they didn't come right out and say what the S stands for, but they sort of implied that it stands for simplicity or simplify, because you can use it for schools, and they gave 2 or 3 other S words. It is essentially what RT tried to be 5 years ago, but this actually has a chance. So it's a version of Windows 10 based on the Windows 10 Pro code base from the looks of it, but it will only install apps from the Windows Store. So you can't download, Crazy Jimmy's whatever.exe and install on there. And it boasts a bunch of other things. They showed logging into it with similar hardware. It's got a faster login, things like that. And this device comes with that. So now people are like, that new Surface laptop can't run executables. Well, it can, but they did a bad job with it. Now, with Windows S, another big differentiator from Windows RT is that Windows S runs on x86. And so it runs on any piece of machinery that Windows 10 Pro will run on. And through the end of this year, you can upgrade your box from Windows 10 S to Pro for free if you'd like. So if you get one of these fancy new laptops, you can upgrade it to Pro and do all the things you need to. And after that, they said it's going to be $50. So that was something you couldn't do with a Surface RT running Windows RT. You couldn't take that next step.
Yeah, right now it's interesting because it's all about the battery life and the simplicity, or the what are the other names? Streamlined, or school, student, scholastic. Pick an S word, whatever it is. But it opens up a lot of scenarios. But the challenge becomes, can you really live with only apps from the Microsoft Store?
Yeah, and they very, very much have put this square against Chromebooks. I mean, this is exactly and in schools. And so my kids have Chromebooks at school, and it's the same story. I mean, those Chromebooks it's just a browser. So it just runs browser-based Chromebook apps. You can't even run regular Android apps on it. It's got to be a Chromebook app. So it's the same story there. And so it's that whole thing. It's not the number of apps. It's the which apps you need. If the app you need is there, it'll be a success. If not, it won't. But this was definitely Microsoft taking on the Chromebook and in the education arena.
Yeah, one thing Dave Aykroyd said, it only runs the Edge browser. So that Windows 10 S is winning if it's only running Edge.
So that's another one of those things like, this new Windows laptop only runs Edge and you can't change the search engine. It does only run Edge, and you can't change the search engine off of Bing. But what you can do is you can create a bookmark to Google and pin that somewhere. I mean, but again, it's a cheap OS. It's a fast OS. You got to give something up.
Yeah, I mean, 2 days of battery life is 2 days of battery life. 2 work days, it is.
Yeah, more secure because you can't get all these creepy crawlies on there. Faster to log in because there's not all this stuff going on in the background. I like it. I was talking to some of the MVP folks this weekend about it, and again, it's got that same idea that Surface RT is. I think Surface RT was a good product that had exactly the right niche, but they marketed it wrong. If they would have said Surface RT is like the iPad, and Windows 8 on a Surface Pro is like your MacBook, then people would have understood it. But instead, like, this dumb Windows box that looks just like this other Windows box can't run stuff, and they did a bad job.
People get confused very easily. You gotta baby step them.
Yeah.
Now, I do think one of the things we gotta give Microsoft some crap on about this whole launch, though, was their unwillingness to sell it. Right? You were watching the thing live. Todd was ready to impulse buy, put it in his basket, have the Amazon drone drop it off right then, and he would have paid anything. He would have paid way more than it was worth. But they're like, in a couple weeks you'll be able to order it, which they finally fixed later on in the day. But they don't get the mark of especially with us American audience. We want to impulse buy. We need gratification right that second. And we'll pay a whole bunch for it.
Yeah, and so Panos Panay is standing on the stage showing this thing off. I'm drooling, and he's like, and you can pre-order it now. And I'm like, you can pre-order it now? Holy crap. And I bring up a browser, and you can't pre-order it now. I mean, the guy just looked me right in the eye and lied to me. And it took another hour or so before you could pre-order it. So by that time, the adrenaline had come. But then the reality sunk in. So you can only get the colors, the 4 colors with the i5. So if you want the i7, the increased processor, you can only get the black or the silver or whatever. I forget what it is. And if you want 16 gig of RAM as opposed to 4 or 8, you can only get that in the i7, which means you can only get it in the the black or whatever. And so I didn't pre-order one. And the other thing he said was you can pre-order it today. They'll be delivering them June 15th. And I'm like, I'll wait this, the 5 weeks or whatever. But it's only the i5s that are available June 15th. The i7s are August 15th. So, yeah.
So much good, but yet just undone, and just a few little technical details that they don't get right.
Yeah, they had a bunch of people chomping at the bit to get these things, and if they'd done the Apple thing and had them available, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, right? Because really, what we as consumers want is he should have them sitting in the Amazon warehouse already. So I'm, Amazon Prime or Amazon Next Day, right? That's going to be just a major coup. The first one that figures out how to do that, so that literally can hop on stage and be like, "You want it? Hit the button. You'll have it by 5 p.m. today."
Yeah.
So easy.
Yeah. They also said that with Windows S, so the Windows laptop, it's going to start at like $899 or $999, and that's an i5 with 4 gig of RAM. I don't know how anybody uses that these days. But they also said that Windows S, again, Chromebook killer, that there will be third-party vendors, ISVs will be coming out with Windows S laptops starting at $190, $189. So low end, obviously, a couple gig of RAM, something like that. But that, fast boot up, Windows Store apps only, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, and then keeping on, the same vein though, there was an announcement today around Surface Pro 5, and apparently the announcement was that there is no such thing. They're not even working on one yet. Working on is the wrong word, but there's no active plans for Surface Pro 5.
Yeah, so again, Panos Panay, the guy that looked right in the screen and lied to me and told me that I could pre-order my Surface laptop when I couldn't. Basically what he said, exactly what he said is there is no such thing as a Surface Pro 5. Now, what he really meant was there is no such thing as a Surface Pro 5 at a spot where we're willing to talk about it publicly. That's what he really meant, but yeah.
Yeah, and from the details of the interview or the speech or whatever it was, it sounds like they're trying to make sure that whatever the Surface Pro 5 is, it's not iterative. It is something earth-shattering and new and different and all that, and that's their plan. But at the same time, Surface Pro 4, it's from almost 2 years old at this point. So, and I know they just got beat up by Wall Street because their Surface orders were down 25, 26%, something like that. So there's got to be some pressure to get us something that makes us want to buy again.
Yeah, and so a couple of things about that. I think a lot of the Surface Pro downturn is because people knew this event was coming and were waiting to get the Surface Pro 5. And now that hasn't happened, hopefully it'll jump up. But the other thing that was interesting was they kept talking about how great the Surface laptop is compared to the MacBook Air. Well, the reason that it's better than the MacBook Air is for the same problem. The MacBook Air is like 2 years old now. It hasn't had any refreshes. So Microsoft's putting themselves in the same spot as the thing that they're ridiculing. So
I guess as long as they're the new kid on the block, they can continue to go with it. I don't know.
I think what they really need to do is to bring us in, have them, have us tell them what they're doing wrong with their products so they can fix them.
I mean, I'm doing CMO consulting for another customer right now. I'm happy to roll into Microsoft. I'm guessing CMO at Microsoft be worth about $7 or $8 million a year. So I would do it.
There you go. But anyway, excited about it. But then, and I can't remember if it was Jeff in the chat room. I was talking about wanting to get one of these, and he was saying that, you can't get it now, but the Yoga 720 looks pretty nice. So I might do that. I got a laptop now. It's a couple years old. It's not great. So I might do something like that. But good stuff. Okay, so we're a little bit over, but you wanted to ask about cord cutting a little bit, so let's spend a few minutes indulging you and I on talking about cord cutting.
All right. Well, so I got the phone call from good old Cincinnati Bellfly Optics, and like, hey, that great pricing you've been enjoying for the preview is over. Give us a call back, and we'll tell you about some new pricing that'll make it even better for you. I cried a little, put on my big boy pants, called them up, and they're like, well, great news. Your total value of your package is like $250, and you're paying $170 right now, but we think we can get you in at about $210, right? We're going to do a little this, a little that, and we'll give you HBO free for 3 months. I mean, just, then it'll be $18 a month, but that's not important. I'm talking about today's price. And I just stood there and took it and said, okay. I was like, am I under a contract or anything? No, it's all month to month. I was like, that's the important part of this conversation. Thank you. And we started, talking it through, and I was like, well, my problem is, and so Cincinnati Bell Fiber Optics is just that. It's fiber to my house that also they use to run a cable service. The internet is stellar. I love it. It's great. It's fast. It's as fast as it's supposed to be. It's consistent, reliable, blah, blah, blah. Their cable service is terrible. It's like Chewy and Grant and Luke got together and said, hey, we're going to figure out how to set up a UI for a cable box. And they made it. It is, it's borderline unusable. Just the guide experience, the DVR experience. And so I'm like, all right, we're going to go back to Time Warner. Their internet is not as fast, not as good, but it'll be cheaper, right? I'll go to their promo pricing for a year.
Yep.
And their cable experience is stellar because they were a cable company first.
Yep.
But then I said, all right, all my friends are doing it. So Todd, tell me how to figure out where to start if I'm going to cut the cable and just be like internet only into this house.
Sure. So your fiber optics thing you said was 210. Is that 210 for internet and cable?
Yes.
Okay. How much of that how much would your internet be if you cut out the TV?
Good question. I went and looked. $49.99 for 100 megs. Yeah. Is that good or bad?
Well, that's good. That's very good. So that means your internet was costing you is going to cost you $170 a month. 210 minus 40, 170.
I'm so confused. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'll go with that. All right. Yeah.
Okay. So when I cord cut, I was using DirecTV and I was paying like $150 a month. So similar thing. All right. So what I did was I basically sat down and said, okay, what's important for me now consuming TV? Like what shows do we have to watch? What shows do we like to watch? And then try to find a service that fits that. Here's a couple of things that I found. Today, May of 2017, for the most part, anything you want to get, there are legal ways to get now. So the $170 a month that they're asking you to spend or that I was spending is not for content so much as it is for convenience, for experience. And so that has different value to people. Last night I tried to watch a show because of some stuff going on in my house with my network. Couldn't watch a show. Probably wouldn't have been a problem with DirecTV, but so there we have it. Okay. So once you've got an idea what things you want, there are 4 or 5 services out there now to look at. There's the one that I use, PlayStation View. There's Sling TV. Last week, Hulu announced one. There's DirecTV Now, which is not DirecTV, but it's whatever. And then YouTube said they're going to do one, but it's not out yet, but it's coming. The ones that are out, as far as I know, they all have free previews. So you can try the PlayStation View for 7 days or something like that. But basically, they all work with an Amazon Fire box or a Roku box. So if you've already got one of those, you can try it out. I did that for about a month. I still had DirecTV, but since I already had a Roku and already had a Fire TV, I just signed up and did the experience. But try them out, see which one. They all have different strengths as to what they do best. For me, we watch a bunch of things off of network TV. And around here for sports, there's going to be a bunch of stuff on network TV. And I have a TV without a tuner. So I have a TV that is essentially just a 65-inch monitor. So I can't hook an antenna up to it because there's no whatever. So I went with PlayStation View. And every one of my TVs has both a Roku and an Amazon Fire box. Again, already had stuff going on there, Plex and Netflix and all those kind of things. So then I bought another box called a Tablo TV, Tablo TV, hooked an antenna up to that, and then it hooks up on your network. It also has an app for Roku and Amazon Fire. So you set that up and you say, I want to watch, I want you to record America's Funniest Home Videos and NCIS and whatever. And it does all that. You hook a hard drive up to it, and then it's basically a little DVR that only does over-the-air stuff. But it uses the same set-top box that you're using for Sling TV or PlayStation View or whatever. The reason for that was with PlayStation View, I could get our local CBS station live, so I could watch live local news and all that and live CBS stuff. But ABC, NBC, and Fox was only on demand. So 2 downsides with that. You can't get any of the local stuff, local news or whatever. And the other thing is that on demand only keeps so many episodes. So if you like to save up shows and watch them over the summer, the on demand usually has like 4. With this Tablo deal, I can keep as many as I want. Just fills up a hard drive. and that box was $200. And then if you pay for their guide data, which gives you like series and metadata and all that kind of stuff, it's another $5 a month or $50 a year. So I went ahead and paid for that. But that, and it also gives you live TV. So on anything, and it's got phone apps and tablet apps. So anything where you've got the Tableau app, you can just watch live TV over your antenna. All that. So I guess for you, where you're at, if you don't already have a Roku box or Fire TV, I would get one of those. And then look at those 4 services that are available now and kind of figure out which one has the packages that you want for the price you want. And then just try a free trial for one and see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's what it seems to come down to. And I've got an Xbox One, and my understanding is it does pretty much all the same stuff as well.
Yeah. The other thing is so I had a buddy who was looking at PlayStation View, and he's like, my kids love this Disney show. I can't remember what it was. Again, the View only keeps 4 episodes. But once you have a login for PlayStation View, you can download the Disney app for Roku or Fire or whatever, authenticate with your View thing, and then you can get the Disney app and get all of everything the Disney app has. So that was good. Found out with PlayStation View, they've got a package that has HBO and Showtime as part of it. So that's good. If you need Stars, you can get that through Amazon. So we've got that because there's a couple shows we watch on Stars. But again, all the content is there. It's just a matter of convenience where to look at it.
Yeah, well, that was what I was looking at, right? Because I am definitely one, I'm normally a rule breaker, but when it comes to this stuff, I've seen so many shenanigans with people getting giant bills for, streaming some content they shouldn't. So I'm not a rule breaker when it comes to this type of stuff. But, and that's, so yeah, it looks like Plex, I was reading Andrew Connell's blog post today as well, right? He does a great job of talking through his setup. And I liked the idea of, adding a Plex server into it and kind of letting Plex bring in your TV and then, using that kind of as the center of your universe also.
That, so I don't recommend that.
Okay.
And I say that as a huge Plex fan. I've got multiple Plex servers and all that. Plex does not do live TV well. So he's got a box called an HD Home Run, which is like my Tableau, except it doesn't store stuff. And so his HD Home Run, he goes into Plex and he says, here's an HD Home Run, here's the stuff, record my shows. That works pretty well. You can't watch live TV on Plex through the HD Home Run without jumping through a bunch of hoops. You have to download this GitHub project from this guy that you've never heard of, and then it's buried 7 levels deep into the UI for Plex, and it's just not a good experience because I tried that first also. Okay. And it's not good. And also those files so it's pulling just the data right off the air. Those files are gigantic, like 7-8 gig a piece for like a 1-hour show. And it just doesn't transcode well when you try to fast forward through the commercials and things like that. It wasn't a great experience.
So, and you feel like your Tableau has done a good job of making that a great experience.
Yeah. So, and the other thing about the Plex is if you do just use the Plex piece, you can't time shift. So, so if you're recording a show that runs from 7 to 8 p.m. at 10 after 7, you can't decide to watch it. You have to wait until after it's done recording before you can watch it. And then if you do the live thing that guy wrote from GitHub, then you start 10 minutes into the show.
Gotcha.
So that was not good. But with the Tableau thing takes care of both of those.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to learning all this. I'll probably wimp out and end up just going back to Time Warner, but at least this time around I'm going to go through all the motions and at least touch all the pieces. And, I used, Andrew had one of those websites that would tell you kind of where your over-the-air channels were and which way. And so all of those are coming from that way. And, according to the thing, I could run a set-top antenna and be able to get them. I wouldn't even have to go to the attic because I'm getting enough juice.
Yeah. So antennaweb.org, I think, is the one that's the one that I used. I'm in the same boat. All of my towers, the 2 towers that transmit my stuff are 13 miles south of me. I literally have a $15 set of rabbit ears from Walmart up in my attic, hanging upside down over a raft, pointing generally in the direction of that tower, and I've had no problems.
Yeah. So that's good to know that they're still blasting us with enough radiation that it's getting through.
So it's all digital now, so it's not as far out as it used to be with analog. The range isn't as far, but it's crystal clear. Works like a champ.
Yeah, so he used TV full.
Okay.
sure it's the same thing, but I just punched in my address and it's like, boom, here's the list of channels. Like I've never heard about 30 of these, but good to know I got options.
Yeah. So ours has that. And I've been watching like old episodes of Johnny Carson off of one of those channels. And oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, my biggest fear is, NFL, right? That's probably the one thing that I watch live,
Yeah.
Everything else is,
Yeah. And for that, I'm going to miss that too, because I had the NFL Sunday ticket on DirecTV. I haven't cord cut since, I cord cut after all that. And as long as it's broadcast over the air, I'm fine. And I'm not going to hit blackouts or anything because there's no local teams.
Yeah. So, for me, it'll be all of those will come in if I get an antenna and then I buy something that's got ESPN, right? That should cover the NFL stuff. I've never had Sunday ticket and I've never cared for the Red Zone. My in-laws watch the Red Zone a lot, but I've never been a big fan, so I'm not missing out on that too much either.
Yeah, I have PlayStation View, and it's got a ton of the ESPNs, so I think you're probably fine there. And it's got a bunch of the regional stuff, like some of our stuff's on the Big Ten Network when the Cyclones play Iowa State and stuff like that.
The who? Is it the Hawkeyes?
Yeah. So in the chat room, Jack asked about TiVo. I actually have a TiVo that would do a bunch of this stuff, but all of my TVs are now hung on the wall, and I've got nothing sitting by them. And the TiVo that I have doesn't work over the network, and there was no way for me to have the TiVo out so that I could do these things. But the TiVo would have worked, yes. But because of the aesthetics of where things are set up, it didn't work for me.
And Blake is now bashing the Bengals in the chat room, so this must be time for this show to be over.
Everybody bashes the Bengals chat room. All right. So, as you're listening to this, if you've got more cord cutting stuff, hit us up on Twitter at Todd Clint. And there's a podcast, the Cord Killers. Tom Merritt does. I think and Brian Brushwood. I've listened to a few of those. That's good stuff. Good things in there. The other thing about this is this landscape is constantly changing. It has changed in the 3 months since I started doing it. It's changed in the 6 months since AC started doing it. So if you've seen something out there that doesn't quite do what you want or whatever, ask somebody. It may have changed. So we'll go on to shameless self-promotion. The first thing in 2 weeks from today, May 22nd, you and Shane and I could all be together in a SharePoint admin class. It would be delightful. It would be just glorious. So if you want a online SharePoint admin class with Shane and I, you can go to boldzebras.com/training.
That works.
There we go. SharePoint Administrator Training. You can sign up for that. It's going to be 5 days. It's like an hour and 15 minutes in the morning, hour 15 minutes in the afternoon. We got labs. We got demos. We'll give you all the stuff afterwards. And it's just us talking about SharePoint stories.
It'll be amazing. The other nice thing, though, right, is we are doing the promo. You get a $50 gift card if you get one of your buddies to sign up. Or if you sign up and get your boss to pay for it, we'll send you a $50 Amazon gift card. So
that is very generous, and it comes out of Shane's share. So there's a little thing there.
Last week it came out of your share, so this week it comes out of mine. Is that what we're doing here?
That was last week. That was Okay. The other thing is, since it's Shane and I, it's all very flexible. So when we taught this last month, we had just a couple of people that were doing 2016, a bunch of people doing 2013. So we talked about more 2013 stuff. That's the kind of flexibility you have when you take training from us.
We've also rolled a bunch of hybrid in there, right? Because I don't think it's responsible for anyone to have their head in the sand anymore. You might not be doing it. You might be, I don't care. You at least need to know what are the hybrid-y things that are available to you.
Yeah. So that's so again, boldzebras.com. That starts May 22nd on Monday. Jump in for that. Also next week, and we should probably have talked about this more. Microsoft is doing their SharePoint Virtual Summit on May 16th. Free deal. You can go out to blogs.office.com and find out about that. But they're talking about the future of SharePoint and what's going to be happening. Shane and I will be watching it. We've thought about live blogging it. We might still do that. I gotta see how possible that is. But if you're a SharePoint person, there's going to be something in there for you. They're going to be talking about everything. So it's going to be a place to be.
I'm hopeful we can figure out how to live blog it. Right? It'll be a long time, but I think it might turn into the After Dark show. It might be like, whoa, this kind of went off the rails pretty fast, but we'll see it happens.
Yeah, and so I think it's 2.5 hours, if I remember right. It's like 10 to 12:30 my time, I think. 12 to 2:30 my time.
Oh, so Todd will whine about being hungry, so you guys don't want to join. I don't.
Yeah,
that's all I will hear about is, Oh my God, I can't believe I'm missing lunch. Oh my God, I need to go meet my friends. Leave me alone. That'll be all it'll be for 2 hours.
There will be whining. Yes, there will be whining. But yeah, so Shane and I are thinking about, doing a live broadcast of that and then doing like the MST 3K thing where we talk about it. I watched Leo Laporte and Ed Bott do their thing with the Windows thing. That's kind of what gave me the idea for that. So we'll see if we can make that work. And then as for speaking engagements, I'm going to be at Office 365 Engage June 19th through the 22nd in Haarlem, the Netherlands. I'm going to be talking about Azure Active Directory and PowerShell with Office 365. You can sign up for that at office365engage.com. And when you sign up, if you register and you use my last name, you get some kickback. They give you like $50 off or something. I forget. But there's something in it for you if you drop my name KLINDT at the Office 365 Engage. And if you're gonna be there, hit me up. I'd love to hang out and just chat. All that.
He needs friends.
I do need friends. And then September 6th through the 9th, I'll also be speaking at the SharePoint Exchange Forum in Stockholm, Sweden. You can go out to seforum.se. This year is a super cool one. They did this a few years ago. The conference is on a cruise ship. And so you're going to start the cruise in Stockholm, and then we're going to go over to Tallinn and then come back to Stockholm. And so the conference is on a cruise ship. It is super cool. They did this a couple years ago between Stockholm and Helsinki, and it was a good time. So I will be speaking there. I don't think we've decided what I'm going to be speaking on, but Jorn Huseman puts that on. Great conference. Look forward to it every year.
Are you done talking about yourself? I'm bored.
Almost. Very close.
Yep.
I think that is it, folks.
Well, and so Todd's going to put together a viewer survey here soon. He's going to use Wyzer.com for that. WYZERR.com. It's a cool little survey tool that is going to start sponsoring our show here shortly. So go check that out and tell them that Shane and Todd sent you. It'll be fun stuff.
Yeah, so Shane's had me looking at some of the betas of that. We all have to fill out surveys online, and they all suck, and we hate it all. And these folks at Wyzer have come up with a way that is not annoying and almost fun to fill out surveys and stuff online. So there have been a bunch of times since I've seen it the first time where I've thought, I wish I could get into Wyzer and set this up because it's the place to go.
Pretty cool, and they're going to sponsor us. So who doesn't really love it? So guys,
so I like them even more now.
All right. Well, I think that is that finally enough of us rambling.
I think that's a wrap. Yeah. So thanks everybody. We will be back next week with more SharePoint Office 365 and whatever else comes to mind. So hope you'll join us. Until then, see you next week.
Toodles.